At first glance, it looks like big brands are doing what they've always done, expanding, launching new products, entering new markets, growing their presence. But if you look a little closer, something surprising is happening. They're actually getting smaller, not in size, not in revenue, but in how they operate, what they focus on, and how they compete. And the most interesting part, most people haven't even noticed. Because this shift isn't loud, it's not announced in big press releases, it's happening quietly behind the scenes, but it's changing the way big companies work. This is why big brands are getting smaller and why it matters more than you think. For years, the strategy for large companies was simple: get bigger, more products, more divisions, more markets, more complexity. The idea was that scale created power. The bigger you were, the more you could dominate your industry. And for a long time, that was true. But scale came with a hidden cost: complexity. As companies grew, they added layers, more teams, more processes, more decision-making steps. Over time, this made them slower, less flexible, and harder to manage. And in today's business environment, that's a problem, because speed matters more than ever. Markets change quickly. Consumer preferences shift fast. Trends appear and disappear almost overnight. And smaller companies are often better at adapting. They move faster, they experiment more, they take risks. So big brands are responding in a surprising way. They're trying to behave like smaller companies. One of the biggest ways they're doing this is by simplifying. Instead of offering hundreds of products, many big brands are cutting down their product lines. They're focusing on what actually sells, what drives profit, and what strengthens their brand. Less clutter, more clarity. This doesn't mean they're shrinking, it means they're becoming more focused, and that focus makes them more efficient. Another major shift is decentralization. Large companies are breaking themselves into smaller, more independent units. Instead of one massive centralized organization, they're creating smaller teams that operate almost like startups within the company. These teams have more autonomy. They can make decisions faster. They can respond to changes without waiting for layers of approval. This structure allows big companies to keep their scale while gaining the agility of smaller ones. It's a powerful combination. We're also seeing this shift in branding. In the past, companies tried to build one massive brand that appealed to everyone, but today that approach is losing effectiveness. Consumers want something more specific, more targeted, more personal. So instead of one big brand, companies are creating smaller niche brands within their portfolio. Each one is designed to appeal to a specific audience. This makes the company feel smaller, more relatable, even if the overall business is still massive, and it works. Because people connect more easily with brands that feel focused and relevant. Another reason big brands are getting smaller is efficiency. Operating at massive scale can be expensive. Large organizations often have inefficiencies, redundant roles, slow processes, unnecessary complexity. So companies are streamlining it. They're cutting unnecessary layers, reducing overhead, simplifying operations. This makes them leaner and more competitive. It's part of the broader do more with less trend, and it's forcing even the biggest companies to rethink how they operate. Technology is also playing a major role in this shift. In the past, scale required size. If you wanted to reach millions of customers, you needed large teams, massive infrastructure, and significant resources. But today, technology changes that equation. Digital platforms, automation, and data systems allow companies to operate efficiently with fewer resources. A smaller team can now manage what used to require a much larger organization. This enables big brands to shrink their operational footprint without losing capability, and that's a big deal. There's also a strategic reason behind this shift. Big companies are realizing that being too large can actually be a disadvantage. It can make them slow, rigid, resistant to change. By becoming smaller in structure and focus, they can move faster, they can test new ideas more easily, enter new markets more quickly, adapt to customer needs more effectively. In other words, they become more competitive, and in today's environment, that matters more than ever. Another interesting aspect of this trend is how companies are approaching growth. In the past, growth often meant expansion, adding more products, entering more markets, increasing scale. But now growth is being redefined. It's not just about getting bigger, it's about getting better. Better margins, better efficiency, better customer relationships. And that often requires doing fewer things, but doing them extremely well. This is why companies are becoming more selective. They're focusing on their core strengths, doubling down on what works and cutting what doesn't. It's a more disciplined approach to growth, and it's leading to stronger, more resilient businesses. There's also a cultural shift happening inside organizations. Employees are being encouraged to think like they're part of a smaller company, to take ownership, to move quickly, to innovate. This creates a different kind of energy, less bureaucracy, more accountability, more impact, and that can transform how a company operates. But here's the key point. Big brands aren't actually shrinking in size. They're shrinking in complexity. They're removing friction, eliminating inefficiencies, simplifying their operations, and in doing so, they're becoming more powerful. Because in today's business world, being big isn't enough. You also have to be fast, you have to be flexible, you have to be focused. And those are qualities that traditionally belong to smaller companies. So instead of trying to outgrow their challenges, big brands are redesigning themselves. They're becoming smaller on the inside so they can stay competitive on the outside. And that's why most people haven't noticed. Because from the outside, everything looks the same. The logos are still there. The products are still on shelves. The companies are still massive. But behind the scenes, the way they operate is changing. Quietly, strategically, and very intentionally. Because the future of business doesn't belong to the biggest companies. It belongs to the companies that can act the smartest. And right now, that means thinking smaller, even when you're huge.